with us today. Can you please let us know, give a little bit of a background, where you grew up, who inspired you to get into this business of show?
I actually was born in Germany and I grew up in the army. So I traveled all over the world. Well, actually, by the time I was born, we just traveled within the United States. And so I spent a lot of my childhood kind of on my own just because we would move and I was very, very shy, which is so bizarrely
Yeah.
most entertainers say. Very shy. And so I spent a lot of time on my own. And a lot of time was spent listening to music. And my parents, unbeknownst to me, listened to a lot of Broadway. Because at the time that was still sort of popular music. So that was what I was hearing. So I would sing along with it. And then, I finally got a record player. Yeah, record player. Remember vinyl you didn't wear?
Yes.
And so that was how I would spend my time, was in my room listening to, and of course the people I listened to were Barbara Streisand and Liza Minnelli and Judy Garland, Julie Andrews. I mean, the first show I ever knew, top to bottom, was Sound of Music. And my dad had a reel-to-reel tape recorder player with the Sound of Music on it. So it wasn't even a record, it was a reel-to-reel tape that which at the time was old technology even then, but I would go downstairs and put that on in my basement and just do the whole show from my imagination because I hadn't ever seen it. And that's kind of how I got started. Those were my influences, were sort of just the music of the day, but a lot of it was from Broadway.
Wow.
So
Okay. So, can you let us know where you moved after that time, where you settled in the New York area? What was your upbringing as far as schooling? I mean, did you want to pursue? Was that always your dream and your desire to pursue Broadway, or did it just kind of fall in your lap?
it was always, always, always my dream. I knew I would sing once I discovered Broadway. That was it. My thing was nobody else knew. So it was just this whole career lifestyle life in my head, and I knew it, and it never occurred to me nobody else knew it. Sort of didn't occur to me that I was supposed to tell anybody. So particular incident, one time I was watching a TV show and there was a very famous there was a daughter of a very famous person on the screen on TV singing, and as sometimes happens, this person was not quite the entertainer that their father was. So, and I, at a very young age, knew this. I was watching this going, really? Well, I don't get it. So I walked in, my parents were in the kitchen. I walked in, and remember, they have no idea. All they know is I'm watching TV. I come in, I look at them, and I'm like, if you guys were famous, this would be so much easier. And I walked out, and my mom was like, what is she talking about? My dad's like, she's your daughter. Oh, no, she's your daughter too, So they just never knew. It was all in my head. And of course, then they started to realize, and once they found out I could sing, it became very apparent. And then I moved to New York. I went to college. I studied opera,
Okay.
which, any kind of learning, studying is not bad. My path, I should have studied theater, or a musical theater program. But, back in the day, they didn't have musical
That's right.
theater programs. And actually, to tell you the truth, if I had my druthers today, I would major in music business and minor in musical theater performance,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
business is always the harder for artists. It's a very hard concept. We all say they don't call it show business
For nothing.
for
That's
nothing.
right. That's right.
So I wish I had those resources, and the places to go for that kind of learning, because boy, it would have come in handy.
Right. Okay. So, you know what? I would like to let's skip ahead a little bit. And
Yeah.
you did tell me, you told us a little bit of who inspired you. Now, did you have any teachers or mentors? And what did they teach you along the way, while you started on your career?
My Probably my biggest mentor was a voice teacher, that I got in, believe it or not, in high school, which is, it's high school, I feel, is a little early, um, for kids, unless to take voice unless the voice teacher really understands young voices, that you cannot start them out on Wagner and singing this crazy stuff, that you really, all those lessons really need to be about breathing.
Yes.
Because that is the basis of everything we do. It's all on the breath. I mean, if I, as a professional singer now, if I'm having trouble with a note, I even have to go, you're not breathing, Right. So she was very good at this, though. She understood young voices, and I started taking with her. And at the time, it was because my high school drama teacher had said, if Jeri wants to do these roles in high school, she needs to start taking voice lessons. And my mom said, okay. So we found this teacher. And the thing was, it wasn't really about that. It was more about, I hadn't been in the drama classes. I wasn't really well known because I traveled, I was new to this area and stuff. And basically what this teacher taught me was, you have a gift, mm-hmm. and you have longevity, which of course at the time I didn't know what that meant, but this is going to last your lifetime. And I know you don't believe it now, but high school is a blip of time. So just wait, just study, just keep moving forward, and your time will come. And she said that, she goes, it may even be through college. Your time will come. And it gave me this sort of peace and sort of like, okay. And I used that. I mean, my time will come. It was like my mantra.
That's
all
great.
Through high school, all through college. It was like, my time will come. I just need to study, and I need to learn, and I need to absorb as much as I can, because when my time comes, I have to be ready.
Gotta be ready.
And it was true.
That's great, that you're saying that now, because a lot of our younger generation, they think, well, I made it on a TV show, or I did this or that. I need it, and I need it now. And so for me, thank you so much for sharing that, because a lot of the times we rush things, and especially as performers or entertainers. And, I tell my students, I don't know everything. I'm still learning and growing. And so it's when our time is, and when it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. So thank you so much, Jeri, for saying that, because I know that there are a lot of younger ones that are like, how come I didn't book that show? And then it becomes a chore instead of a joy.
It's exactly. And I mean, I can give you so many examples of friends of mine who, an extremely successful actor, and I'll say his name because I think he's a phenomenal. His name's Kelly Briggs. Mm-hmm. And I met him waiting tables, and he was a very distinctive type, mm-hmm. very distinctive voice. He had been in New York way longer than I had, wasn't that much older than me, but just had been there doing this for a long time. And people were kind of like, well, Kelly, he's still waiting tables. And I tell you what, the minute he was like, no, my time will come.
Right.
And the minute he got that first show, that first break where they finally went, yes, you are what we need. He grew into his type. He grew into his voice. This man has not stopped working. He is the most successful actor, one of the most successful Broadway actors I know.
That's amazing.
But it took him 10 years. Mm-hmm. It took him, and I mean, I'm throwing these numbers out. I'm not for sure how long, but it was a longer period of time than you would have thought. And so many people need to grow into their talent, grow into their roles, grow into their parts and their voice types. We're such an immediate kind of society now, 15 minutes of fame and all these reality shows, they take a 15-minute chance to stand in line. If not a 2-hour chance, they stand in line. Broadway people take a 10-year chance.
That's right.
And it can be a long process, but there's so much joy along the way, and you keep that joy. And if you don't, then maybe it's not for you. I mean, right. There are people, I knew some people that said, you know what, I've been here. This isn't for me. I'm going to move on to something else. And that's okay too.
Right.
You got to find where you're happy.
That's right. You're right. That's so true. Well, I would love to dig in. Let's start talking about your time on stage.
Okay.
And I would love for you to share with all of us, what was your first professional show? Whether it was an off-Broadway, Broadway, or theme park. But what was your first professional show? And how did you feel once you booked that show?
My first professional show or job was at a theme park.
Yay!
Yay!
Me too.
I know. I tell you what, though, it taught me so much about pacing,
Mm-hmm.
about being able to give 100% and yet still having something left over. I mean, you're doing five, and I did an outdoor show. I was doing 5 to 8
Me
shows
too.
a day in, 90-degree weather, going, how would, but I was in show business, I
That's
didn't
right.
care, which is why, those are the jobs the young kids take. But it is such a learning process, and it really, really did teach me. And I then went on to do a cruise ship for about a year.
Oh,
I
fun.
was a singer on a cruise ship, very, very young, very young. But again, I was learning. I was learning about professionalism. I was learning about, what I can and can't do, how to maintain my voice, how to maintain my body, how to, show up and participate in, 3 or 4 shows a day or a night. Um, and then from there, I went to dinner theater and then to New York. But, that was sort of my path. But every step along the way, I was learning. And if there's anything I try to teach the kids that I mentor, is that you participate in every. I used to go in, and one of my very first professional equity jobs was with a cast of just unbelievable people. Just I couldn't believe the people I was performing with. And so I would sit in rehearsal if they would let me and watch. I mean, I was a voyeur for, I
Mm-hmm.
watched everything I could because that's how I ended up learning. Because by the time I got to New York, I was working pretty steadily as I started was working my way up, and didn't really have time to take a lot of classes. I was doing this, working a day job and then doing shows at night, not paid very well, but,
Right.
doing it and learning. And that's how I would learn, as I would watch what other people did. And I'd pick and choose. I'd say, well, that's the kind of actor I want to be.
Right.
I want to be the prepared actor. I want to be the respected actor. I want to be the one that's got it going on.